Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory in for MTV Awards. This is Africa 54 and here's what's coming up. An in-depth look at what caused Libya's deadly floods and the challenges now facing the country. Hopes of finding survivors in Morocco are fading a week after the devastating earthquake that killed nearly 3,000 people and injured more than 5,000. And in our Friday entertainment, Heather Maxwell presents highlights of the recent MTV Music Video Awards. This and much more coming up on Africa 54. We'll begin in North Africa, where the death toll from floods in the eastern Libyan city of Derna has now soared to over 11,000. That's according to the Libyan Red Crescent. More than 10,000 are reported missing in the coastal city. The World Health Organization and other aid groups on Friday are calling on authorities in Libya to stop burying flood victims in mass graves after a United Nations report showed that more than 1,000 people had so far been buried in that manner. The UN says hasty burials can lead to long-lasting mental distress from family members, as well as social and legal problems. Meanwhile, Libyans from across the fragmented country have driven through old front lines regardless of hostilities to deliver aid to flood-stricken Derna this week, putting aside years of conflict between their divided leaders. Inside Derna, volunteers from Masrata, Tripoli and Benghazi are distributing clothes and food. Well, the United Nations aid chief says Libya needs equipment to find people trapped in sludge and damaged buildings, as well as primary health care to prevent a cholera outbreak among survivors. Martin Griffiths told a UN briefing in Geneva that its humanitarian office had sent a disaster coordination team of 15 people to Libya who had been redeployed from Morocco, which suffered an earthquake last week. Griffiths had more to say about the horrific tragedy.
Is the need for equipment to find people in the floods and the sludge and the damaged buildings in Derna and its environs. But also we need those priority areas are shelter, food, key primary medical care because of the worry of cholera, because of the worry of particularly in Libya, the worry of lack of clean water. That's a huge threat to the lives, particularly of children, which is why UNICEF and others are there. Appalling, shocking, I think unimaginable, actually, in its consequences. I've heard that there are speculations about up to 20,000 may be dead. I believe there's 4,000 deaths registered at the moment. Again, in Libya, where access to Derna is still so difficult, where there's a compounded problem of the problems of the dams breaking as well as the storm breaking from the sea. This is a tragedy in which climate and capacity has collided to cause this terrible, terrible tragedy.
Griffith says that a suggestion by the mayor of Derna to create a maritime corridor to deliver aid could be a viable option, given that the city is on the Mediterranean Sea. Now, struggling with disastrous flooding that the World Health Organization has called a calamity of epic proportions, Dan Tor takes a closer look at what caused the deadly floods and the challenges facing the country.
Catastrophic flooding has left the coastal Libyan city of Derna with a humanitarian crisis on its hands. Libyan authorities are demanding an investigation into whether human failings are to blame for the massive death toll. Let's take a closer look at what caused the floods and why they're so bad. After barreling through the Mediterranean, the powerful storm Daniel swept into eastern Libya at the weekend. It dumped so much rain that 2 dams collapsed in the hills south of Derna, unleashing a torrent that slammed into the city. But no one was alerted. The head of the World Meteorological Organization said on Thursday a decade plus of political conflict had ruined Libya's weather service.
If there would have been a normally operating meteorological service they could have issued the warnings, and also the emergency management authorities would have been able to carry out evacuation of the people.
Local researchers had also previously warned that the dams needed immediate and regular maintenance. Satellite images show large parts of the city totally flooded. Whole neighborhoods were destroyed or washed away.
Over 35,000 are displaced and homeless. This is a calamity of epic proportions.
The World Health Organization's Director General announced on Thursday emergency funds of $2 million to support the increasingly urgent health needs of flood survivors. Hospitals were destroyed, along with other infrastructure such as roads and bridges. Power, water supplies and internet services were cut after the flood and only partially restored as of Wednesday, according to UN officials. Local authorities have given differing numbers of dead and missing, but all are in the thousands. Here's Libya's UN envoy, Tahir El-Soni.
The numbers are changing as we speak. The numbers are thousands. So far as we got confirmed bodies reached 6,000. But the missing, because the area that was hit had a population of 30,000 in terms of that area where it's direct hit. The whole city could be more than 100,000.
While overseas aid teams have arrived to help, efforts are hampered by damaged roads and bridges. Rescuers have also appealed for more body bags, with fears of an epidemic breaking out. Political fractures in the country of 7 million people also complicate the situation. Libya has no unified government with nationwide reach after a NATO-backed uprising toppled Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. But in a rare show of solidarity, the Western government based in Tripoli has sent aid to Derna in the east and offered to discuss relief efforts.
Well, that was Diane Todd of Reuters reporting there. Now, for more perspective on Libya's flood disaster, standing by in Beirut, Lebanon, is Hossam Faisal, the head of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, Middle East and North Africa Disasters, Climate and Crisis Unit. Mr. Faisal, welcome to Africa 54.
Hello.
Now, we've seen that the needs are many. Can you explain to us, from the assessment of your organization, what are some of the most immediate needs of the people and how are you getting them there?
Thank you. The immediate needs, first, to ensure that the people, they have access to health and clean water as well as shelter solutions. What we are doing as the IFRC, the International Federation of Red Cross Red Crescent Societies, together with our member, the Libyan Red Crescent, from the first minutes after the floods and the storm, the teams were on the ground providing search and rescue, first aid, and other services. The focus now is to ensure proper dead bodies management. That's a critical component of the service, because we need to ensure that public health emergencies are not increasing in that area. At the same time, to start also providing the vital relief and other services to those people. As we speak, we have different relief items being loaded from our different warehouses to be shipped by air to Benghazi. We have released already our emergency fund of 1 million Swiss francs to support the immediate needs of the response.
Now, as I'm talking, we're looking at some images of really a destroyed city. Infrastructure is all messed up. How are you accessing the people? How is that a challenge?
The challenge here that it's about the debris on the ground, also to ensure safer access to those areas. As we know, Libya witnessed a long-lasting war and conflict. So we have the risk of unexploded ordnance as well on the ground. So the staff and the volunteers from the Libyan Red Crescent, they come from those local communities, so they know the best. But still there are logistical challenges, safety challenges, communication challenges as well in those areas. But still the volunteers are risking their lives to rescue and to support the people in those areas. They received more than 9,000 calls in the first 24 hours of stranded families to support evacuating them.
Now, we've seen, of course, there was concern also about dead bodies, and the UN is saying it's calling on the authorities not to bury people in mass graves. Can you explain to us what you guys are making, what you're making out of that?
The key element here is to ensure dignified treatment of the dead bodies, and that has legal and also other considerations. Like as a Red Cross Red Crescent, it's not our responsibility, of course, to get into announcing and organizing the burial, but it's more the authorities to organize. We, as an auxiliary body to the public authorities, we could provide our expertise, technical support. But the element here that any dead bodies or burial should be done in a dignified manner and should be done in a very safe manner as well, and that has its technical elements. We learned a lot from Ebola and from other emergencies, how important to treat this topic with a high consideration of those different technical areas in terms of to ensure the legal and also the dignified burial of those bodies.
Well, thank you very much, sir, Mr. Faisal. And Hassan Faisal is the head of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, Middle East and North Africa Disasters, Climate and Crisis Unit. Now, families in Morocco's high Atlas Mountains are still burying their dead a week after a 6.8 magnitude earthquake killed nearly 3,000 people and injured more than 5,000. Hopes of finding survivors under the rubble are fading and leaving the looming problem of rebuilding homes and lives. Lisa Bryant reports from the Atlas Mountains.
If there's a bright spot after this earthquake, it's the kindness of strangers. Moroccans donating truckloads of clothes and other basics to survivors. Fatma El Makra and her family are among those survivors. Like many others, they lost everything. She says about 20 people died in her village, including a neighbor hit by a rock as he tried to save his wife.
When the disaster happened, we left everything behind and ran for our lives.
Driving here is frightening. Steep cliffs, rock slides potentially triggered by aftershocks. One reason why aid was slow to get here. Now some international rescue workers are leaving.
We have tried to work with the dogs to search for living persons. And so far we haven't found anyone.
Many still alive are now homeless, like the family of Naima Azmil, who are having tea this morning.
We have food, clothes, and shelter, but living day by day, we don't know about the future.
That's a feeling here shared by many. Lisa Bryant for VOA News, Imin Sili, Morocco.
The United Nations Joint Humanitarian Rights Office says it has received credible reports on the existence of at least 13 mass graves in Sudan's El Geneina, a city in Darfur and its surrounding areas. Graves reportedly contain victims of attacks by the paramilitary RSF and allied Arab militias, the majority of whom were from the Masalit community. For more insight into the resurgence of atrocities in Darfur, I'm joined in studio by Dismas Nkunda, co-founder and chief executive officer of Atrocities Watch Africa. Dalmas, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you know, for some of us who've been around for some time, it looks like we're retelling the story. Why are we seeing this resurgence of violence in Darfur particularly?
It's interesting that you ask that question, simply because it's work that I've done about 20 years ago, in 2004, 2003, trying to put a face on what was happening in Darfur at that time, and that now, how many years down the road, 20 years down the road, we are getting the same thing. It's I think, a fracture of lack of governance that has persisted in that particular area, and wealth control, because I think there's quite a lot of wealth and minerals in that particular part, and the contestation between the different tribes, so to say, who have not been able to live side by side, has become the biggest contention that even we are currently facing in Khartoum and in Darfur.
You know, in the past we used to associate the perpetrators of the violence there with the Janja weed, yes. And now people are hearing about this
RSF.
RSF.
Yes. So RSF is a more armed Janja weed. The head of RSF, Hamiti, was himself the head of the Janjaweed during the genocide that happened in Darfur. And he has rearmed himself because he has gotten quite a lot of wealth. He has a lot of money. They deal in gold. They have this financing that has made RSF metamorphose from a Janjaweed into a rebel group that is putting quite a lot of pressure on the Sudanese army.
Now, just today, actually, RSF announced that it may announce, more like it will split the country. It will announce authority over certain regions of Sudan.
Yes.
Do we see a danger here?
Yes, absolutely. The moment you have institutions or rebel groups or even them starting to declare certain parts of the country to be their territory and they are going to own them, then the contestation in terms of the management of the country becomes very complicated. And to that nature, it means that then the fighting is going to be even deeper than it has been since April 15th, when each country, the central government will want to be able to manage that particular area which has been taken over by the rebels. But the rebels also are saying, if we take over this particular territory, it means that we are in control, which is a very dangerous thing for a country that everybody would want to be united like Sudan.
You know, there's some of those who saw the overthrow of Omar al-Bashir as salvation to the people of Sudan. And at that time, we saw the violence in Darfur. But of course, certainly now up to Khartoum, in fact, the country is in war.
Yes.
What went wrong?
Like I said, it's a question of administrative fractures that they have had. I think one of the best countries that we would have been proud of was Sudan. Sudan has had a very good history. Sudan was possibly one of the few countries that were first got independence on the African continent in 1956. Sudan has some of the most cultured and well-intentioned people.
So could somebody say that the military, after overthrowing Bashir, overthrew the civilians again?
But you see, that's where the problem is. The overthrow of Bashir was necessarily, even itself, it had its own problems. Remember that there has been an indictment by the International Criminal Court for people who committed crimes, war crimes and crimes against in Darfur, and none of them was ever taken to the International Criminal Court. They're still at large. So the perpetuation of committal of crimes has become a common denominator in the body public of Sudan. And to that extent, even whether you overthrow Omar Bashir, whether you overthrow Hameti, whether the moment the structure of the management of that country is not put into control and managed very well, there's nothing that is going to bring peace in that country at this moment.
Yes, so it is a structural issue there.
It's a structural issue.
All right. And any hope of a civilian return to civilian
There has been quite a lot of Sudanese who have been agitating to be able, committees that are agitating for them to be included. Actually, a few meetings that we have had is that they have said they don't want the two military individuals to be involved in the next government. And I think there are moments which are brewing up that is going to bring about a semblance of people, civilians, recapturing the state and making sure that the military is not involved in the management of the country.
We just hope for peace and happiness there. Dismas, we really appreciate your perspectives.
Thank you.
Well, Dismas Nkunda is a co-founder and chief executive officer of Atrocities Watch Africa. Still to come, a famous boy band reunites on stage for the first time in 10 years. We'll be right back.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
In other news, Mali's ruling junta is cancelling celebrations planned for next week to mark the anniversary of the country's independence, according to the Council of Ministers. The action follows a resumption of hostilities in the north. The Council of Ministers says the anniversary will be celebrated in sobriety and in the spirit of national revival. The U.S. state of Alabama is marking the 60th anniversary of one of the most heinous acts during the civil rights movement, the 1963 bombing of a church that killed 4 black girls. In 1963, a U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first black woman on the High Court, is giving the keynote address at the Remembrance Friday at 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham. And Barry Steenkamp, the father of Reva Steenkamp, the woman who was fatally shot by Olympic sprinter Oscar Pistorius, died in his sleep Thursday at 80, according to the family spokesperson. Barry Steenkamp cut a grieving and sometimes angry figure during Pistorius' murder trial for the killing of his 29-year-old daughter, Reva, who was a model and a law graduate. And now, for the past 26 years, the African Studies and Research Forum has been pivotal in promoting academic discourse and research on the African continent. Vieux Pondio has more.
Each year, the African Studies and Research Forum recognizes individuals who have significantly contributed to covering African affairs and showcasing its diverse voices. Emmanuel Babatunde, professor of anthropology and education at Lincoln University in Pennsylvania, is one of the leading voices for African research.
There are people who are doing fantastic work, trying to make sure that younger Africans can do well in research and do well in the university and become enlightened leaders of the world.
In its latest edition, ASRF was honored to present its prestigious award to Queen Marian Roka Shamu and Shaka Sali, a veteran journalist from The Voice of America, both prominent figures in African research and journalism. Shaka Sali was honored particularly for his remarkable work on Voice of America's Straight Talk Africa.
I am both flattered but humbled, because this world can move on without you. For many years, I had this incredible platform called Straight Talk Africa. And eventually, of course, you know, I also had Shaka Etc. Time. And so those two platforms were able to take me globally for a very, very long time. And I was an item. So many people, I did have a lot of following, in fact in millions, and I knew I was relevant. I had some things to share, I had some things to learn, and at the end of the day, I enjoyed the conversations, especially with regards to talking about the mother continent.
Sally's commitment to providing an accurate and nuanced presentation of African contributions on the international platform has made him the ideal recipient for this illustrious award.
I couldn't have served the manner in which I did, and the manner in which a lot of people appreciated, without the compliment and the support of the audience and the fans to boot.
Shaka Sali forged a path for authentic storytelling about the continent.
Very pleased to be here on a day where the diaspora and the African community has recognized his great contributions. And I want to assure you that Shaka is going to continue to contribute to his people, our people, in every way he can.
The African Studies and Research Forum fosters groundbreaking research and intellectual exchange, ensuring that African voices resonate far and wide and inspire others who strive to cover African affairs with integrity and understanding.
The number of people from different parts of Africa doing so many different types of research. I was able to sit in on the women and gender, and just to see the perspectives of all of the exploration on women from different parts of Africa really brought it home for me.
ASRF encourages excellence in reporting and analysis, highlighting the importance of global sharing of African stories. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
Well, and now for entertainment report, Heather Maxwell has the highlights from this year's MTV Video Music Awards. Hello, Heather.
Hello, Vincent. Yes, to begin with the classic American boy band, NSYNC reunited on stage for the first time in 10 years to present the coveted Best Pop Video Award.
And the VMA goes to... the unstoppable Taylor Swift.
Yes, it went to Taylor Swift, who won big September 12th at the star-studded ceremony in Newark, New Jersey. She claimed awards in 9 categories, including Video of the Year and Song of the Year for her hit, Anti-Hero. MTV's Music Video Award winners are voted by fans, and the ceremonies become known for unexpected events, such as the 2009 episode when Kanye West interrupted Swift's acceptance speech. Swift, on a break from her record-breaking Eras tour, went into the awards show with a leading 11 nominations. From her tour, so the 33-year-old also won the award for the Artist of the Year in a category filled for the first time with all female musicians from Beyoncé to Karol G and Doja Cat. Tuesday night's scheduled performers included Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, Fall Out Boy and Demi Lovato. And rapper Sean Diddy Combs and Colombian pop singer Shakira received Lifetime Achievement Awards. Nigerian singer and rapper Rema and Selena Gomez accepted the Best Afro Beats Awards for their song, Calm Down.
This means so much, seeing Afrobeat grow this big and being here on this stage representing Afrobeat tonight. I'm so happy.
MTV Video Music Awards added this category following the lead of the Grammys and the American Music Awards, who were the first major American award shows to add Afrobeats. Now, the event wrapped up with a multi-song celebration of hip-hop's 50th anniversary highlights. Highlights included The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, LL Cool J performing Don't Call It a Comeback, and it closed with Run DMC's Walk This Way, featuring other American rap icons.
Don't push me, 'cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. It's like a joke sometimes, it makes me wonder how I keep it going under.
Well,
yes, that's it for this week's entertainment, Vincent. Now back to you.
It took me back in time. Heather, thanks you very much. Be sure to join Heather Maxwell's Entertainment Reports. And it's every Friday right here on Africa 54. And